I'm very happy to be here today to present AcuCort to you. And we are developing convenient oral film relief. And to start with an overview, the company was founded in 2006. It's a public company today, listed on the Spotlight Stock Exchange since 2017. And we also performed a new share issue recently, so we have good capital in the company right now. We are based in Helsingborg in the south of Sweden, and since January 1st we have a new CEO. I have taken over as interim CEO, and I'm very, very pleased to take the company forward. Looking at activity, we have very significant activity on the main product, AcuCort product candidate. This is an oral dissolving film. It's based on dexamethasone, active substance, and this is all to go into the glucocorticoid treatment arena. And we have great convenience advantages with this oral film. I will tell you a lot more about that. And to say something on the position of the company, this is a first-in-class combination to have this corticoid treatment with an oral film. We are very happy to be well patent protected, and we also have the product trademarked. We had an application made for market registration to Swedish Läkemedelsverket in September 2019, and we have an application for the US market in planning. And to tell you more about the actual concept, ODF is the English abbreviation, oral dissolving film, and it's a cellulose film where we have invented the combination to integrate dexamethasone. And this is a very well-known glucocorticoid, so it's very easy to argue for its safety and its convenience for patients. But the new application with the oral film gives very simple self-administration, and you don't need any healthcare intervention. And this means you can take this medication anywhere and anytime, and that's completely new. We have a patent family protected in 31 countries already, and we have a second patent family granted for the European Union, and in application process right now in the US, in Japan, in Brazil, in China, Australia, and Canada. And of course, in pharma, you have to target specific indications. And we have selected these 3 key indications you can see here. The first one is allergy and acute allergy. And I will be going into more detail about this market and the market size. Second, we have croup, which is a pediatric indication. And you can imagine the change if you have a poor baby suffering from croup, and the difference to give just an oral film instead of trying to make the baby take 10 pills or something. It's not very easy. And the only alternative to pills today is an oral solution, and then you have the dosing issue, right? How can you tell if a baby has swallowed 2 drops or 10 drops or something? The third indication here is called CINV. Chemically induced nausea and vomiting for chemotherapy patients. And here personally I really see a benefit of the product, because here we can help cancer patients who are feeling very sick to reduce the sickness with this very easy administration of an oral film, because it's not easy to take pills when you have nausea. So we are working mainly on these 3 indications, but we have also applied for further dexamethasone indications. So in total we have applied for 8 indications. And the whole point, like I'm already telling you, is the convenience of the product candidate, AcuCort. The package size is the same size as a business card, as thin as a business card as well. And you just open it and take out the film, as you can imagine. So you can bring it with you, you can have it in your bag or in your wallet, to always be prepared. If you have allergy, and you can often be afraid of a severe attack, but here you can have this with you without any medical help when you need the treatment. Also, there's no need for water, So you can be outdoors, you can be in outdoors activities, you can be on vacation anywhere, and you can take this anywhere at any time because you don't need water to take the medication. Another significant, important advantage is that you cannot spit it out. And this is, of course, of great value for children, that you can make sure the child gets the medication without too much fuss. And the last point here is for safety and dosing, because here you have one oral film equals exactly one dose, because we have different films for different dosages. And this is great safety concern. You don't have to mess with multiple tablets. This replaces multiple tablets, actually. And speaking more then of the allergic reactions application, we call this a rescue product, because in this indication, it's about helping when you have a quick onset, an allergic attack. And the focus area we have is called moderate to severe allergy and acute allergic reactions. And the areas are allergic rhinitis, and this is by far the biggest one. This is what is also called hay fever, hösnuva in Swedish. Next you have allergic asthma. We can also treat acute urticaria and angioedema. And in some cases we can also go even for anaphylaxis, but then it needs to be combined with adrenaline. And then speaking of market and money, of course, we have made really careful predictions, because I'm sure you know allergy is very prevalent in the world, and the numbers are increasing. For some reason, modern humanity are getting more and more allergies all the time. So we have made our calculations on rhinitis allergy, so just this large dominant indication, and there's a base of patients who have light to moderate allergy. And that's in gray. We are not targeting this one. That's an enormous market size there already, of 20 billion euros. Our target is instead the moderate to severe allergy. When it's more difficult to treat, you cannot just take your regular OTC drug to deal with it. And it may also be an acute onset, and that's when you need this film you can always bring with you. And looking just at the rhinitis indication, there are 25 to 30 million new diagnoses every year, just looking at Europe and US. And that sums up to a market size of 3.1 billion euro. And then on top, you have the most acute and severe allergy, when you get anaphylactic shock. And that's also not our focus area. And we have the treatments here, you know, for simple pollen allergies, so to say, like I have myself. The base treatment is antihistamines, which you get without prescriptions even. And for the top segment, you have adrenaline shots developed these days. And you also have some companies working on a film delivery also for the top segment here. And you will see that later today. There's another company presenting that this afternoon. But for AcuCort, the focus area is the middle segment, where we have a very precise prescription already happening all over the globe, basically. Doctors are prescribing glucocorticoids for this treatment. And we want them to go to AcuCort, of course, and prescribe our product for these patients. And here we make a very careful estimate that we could take 10% of this market. We could calculate on having 6 prescriptions per patient over the lifetime of a patient, so that's also a very moderate estimate. And that would make 15 million films for US and Europe. And depending on the price on the film, we end up with 100 to 300 million euro market potential. And that's only for Europe and US. But we already have planning for more geographical areas. So we can certainly grow that to more. And we also are very actively working on more indications, like I already described. So we are easily doubling that in our predictions. An important topic is that this is a prescription drug, because it is for more severe cases. So you need to see a doctor to get it. And then, of course, the doctors need to be interested, right? So we have started working on this, and we have made one survey in Europe, discussing with doctors, and we had very good response there. The physicians are very positive to the treatment, to the convenience, and 90% said they would prescribe our product if they could. We made a similar study in the US, slightly different questions, and here we also had excellent response rates. We had 80% of the doctors saying that they would give AcuCort to up to half of their allergy patients to set their need. And right now we are planning for a survey more specifically in the Nordic countries for allergy and for acute onset. So that will take place now in spring this year. And then I would say this is the most important slide. This is our milestones, because this is our registration path forward. For Europe, we applied in September last year to Swedish Läkemedelsverket. And this is a very major milestone, of course, to be that close to market. Our application was based on bioequivalence studies. We don't have to do full clinical trials, since the active substance is so well known. So we just need to prove that it's equivalent to an existing drug. And here we compared it with the reference product Fortecotin, because that has a very good indicational scope. And the reply period from the authority is after 110 days, and that's in February to April this year. And we actually had the reply Monday this week. We got an enormous report back from Läkemedelsverket. And we are very happy to say that there are no major objections in it. And we don't see any major hurdles to replying, providing a lot of data, basically, to describe the process and the product. So that's ongoing now, and we published this morning, actually, in the release, because this is very important news for us. As soon as we have a Swedish approval, which is the next milestone, we will then go for an MRP, that means mutual recognition process. Then we can use the Swedish approval to very quickly gain approval in the rest of Europe. So that's our plan, as soon as we have the Swedish approval, which should be ready this year, 2020. And the other main market we are targeting is the US. It's just like many countries, it's a huge market for allergy, and it's also a very good market for convenience products. We had a response from the authority, the FDA, in September 2018, and they confirmed both the regulatory and the clinical strategy for us. We have then conducted 2 bioequivalence studies, and we are planning the application now according to a special guideline called 505(b)(2). And this is because it's not a new active substance, but it's also not just a generic. It's somewhere in between, and the FDA knows which pathway then to assess the product in. And right now, I'm commissioning a study, a computerized study, with a simulation of the response to the drug, because I want to build the knowledge in the company, how the product is performing. And since we are very close to market now, of course, the next thing is to start selling, right? So we are working on establishing a network of partners. The partners could be both licensed partners taking over the product marketing and sales, or it could be distribution partners for key markets. We have evaluations and negotiations ongoing, and this is a very intense activity for myself during this year. And practically, we are, of course, preparing for commercialization. We are working on branding. We have a project for pricing. That's very important, of course, right? Pricing and reimbursement for each market. We are building a communications platform. And then we work with all the paperwork, permits, quality system, pharmacovigilance system, and so on. And I also want to mention that we really have excellent partners with us on this journey. We have very high caliber partners that have worked with us performing the clinical studies, helping understand all the regulatory requirements. Since we come into this, the application process, we have very good regulatory support for that. We have a partner for the manufacturing. The film manufacturing is done by Adex Pharma, as you can see on the top left. And they are true experts in film manufacturing, which is very, very important here, of course. Then we have quality management and, like I mentioned, pricing and reimbursement, which has to be top class as well. So to summarize, really, the AcuCort project and the AcuCort product candidate, we are preparing it now to treat allergic reactions, to treat croup, and to treat the illness in chemotherapy called CINV. One oral film is one dose, and this can be taken anywhere and anytime, really. And that's the content. Thank you so much for listening.
Thank you very much, Ann. So, an exciting point in AcuCort's development.
It is, yeah, indeed.
Yeah. And like you said, you released, you had a press release out this morning, explaining a bit about the process with the regulatory authorities here in Sweden.
Yeah.
And no major objections.
Exactly, that's a formal statement, right? Because in each chapter you can have major objections and minor objections. And we have 0 major objections all the way, all the chapters. And that's very good news.
How about minor?
Yeah, minor is, we have minor, but it's not, the authority is really not objecting to anything, but they are asking for more data. And that's quite natural because oral film is a new delivery form, right? Because if it would be regular tablets, they wouldn't have to ask anything on manufacturing, for example. But here they want to know a bit more detail. I think that's perfectly normal. Yeah. Mm. Mm.
And saying that it's a new way of distributing. What are the major challenges then into going into the market with such a new product, so to speak? How much have you sort of gathered intelligence around from the other side? How?
Yeah. Yeah, and I think a major challenge is, of course, the awareness among physicians. And that's why we are planning to work with licensed partners, because there we can out-license each geographical market to an expert in that area who would have a lot of inroads already to the healthcare side. Because there's nothing AcuCort can do on them. We cannot do it on our own, because that would take 100 years to gain that visibility.
And you mentioned then that the application to the Swedish authorities will then hopefully result in an approval, and that's what you call a mutual MRP. What's that?
Yeah, if and when we have the approval, which should happen middle of autumn this year, we will go into an MRP, mutual recognition process. Because then the European Union has already a very nice and efficient procedure to get approvals in more countries if you are approved in one. And that's why we took the strategy to go for Sweden only first, to make that really work and happen without too many years passing. And then we can quite quickly copy this, so to say, for other markets in Europe. Going
then to the respective markets authorities with an application?
Yes, exactly. But it's one application for Europe, just pointing at Sweden as the reference.
Okay.
Yeah.
So which European markets would be next?
Yeah, we are trying to look at both big population but also good pricing. So there will be a number of both Western Europe and Eastern European countries, really. Yeah.
Do we have any questions in the audience? Yes, we do.
I wonder how about the durability? How long can I keep it in my wallet before I have to change it to a new one?
Exactly, and that's a very important question, and that's something we looked into a lot, because for the allergy, this is not a chronic treatment, right? This is something you should have in your wallet and then use when it's time, when it's needed. And we just had stability data back, actually. We have films manufactured and being tested every 6 months for stability. And right now we had the 18-month stability, and that's perfect. That's also very good news for us. And we are aiming at having several years of so-called shelf life. We would say wallet life here. Yeah. Mm. Yeah.
Anyone else? You mentioned that, as you are in this phase of sort of beginning commercialization, which is a really hard word.
Yeah, it's a difficult word.
And you mentioned that you have ongoing discussions with possible partners and so on.
Yeah.
Can you say anything about? I realize you can't say who they are. Can you say anything about on how many different markets you're sort of spreading your activities in that factor?
Yeah, it's very difficult to tell anything, but I guess I could at least say that we are at least working on Europe, US, and then some niche markets in addition to that right now. I mean, dialogues right now. Yeah.
And another aspect of commercially blah, 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 that's it costs quite a lot. It can cost quite a lot. What's your financing situation like?
Yeah, like I mentioned, we just did a share issue. But like you say, you can easily spend the money, right, in this stage. That's very true. And we have... that's also why we have to balance, I would say, a successful launch right now and further work with even more applications to make sure we have financing enough.
Can't spread too thin.
We cannot spread it too thin, exactly. So we have to, be very aggressive and go forward quickly, but also with smartness, so to say. Yeah.
So going back to the application process, where now you had some response from the authorities here in Sweden. What will be the next steps going forward for you?
Regarding Sweden?
Yeah, regarding Sweden in the first place.
Yeah, now we have a 90-day window to reply to Läkemedelsverket. So I had a really heavy session yesterday with our regulatory experts to go through the first review of the Läkemedelsverket report. It's called the Primary Round Assessment Report. And that's where we concluded that we don't see any major concerns. That's why we made the communication this morning. And now it will just be hard work, so to say. We collect a lot of data, process information, even process descriptions from the manufacturing, and a number of checking on specification limits and so on. And collecting all this, and then on May 9 is the deadline for our reply. And after that, the standard process, you can have 3 review periods. This is just the first one. And if we would have perfect replies now, we could be done after the first round. But I think realistically, most companies have 2 rounds. And that's why we think we could have the approval then. Something like October time. Yeah. Yeah.
Very exciting.
Yes. Yes.
To see where that goes. I would like to say thank you very much for coming here today, presenting.
Yeah.
You will also be here for a little more while. So
yes.
Yeah.
I will stay here and both listen and be available for questions.
Great.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, Ann.
Thank you. Thank you.